Hello, hello, hello everybody, and welcome along to round 3 of the AOR Hype Energy F2 Sprint League. After a carbon fibre filled couple of races last weekend in Baku, we're off to the circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya for the Spanish Grand Prix. My name is Jacob Hancox, and alongside me once again is Jens. How are you doing, Jens?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
Yeah, not bad at all actually. Had a pretty good time of it recently, so that's all good news for me. We currently have 16 drivers in the lobby. We're just going to wait for them to ready up so we can get underway. Apologies for the brief delay to the start of the stream. Just going to take this opportunity to remind everyone watching that if you want to send a message in chat, I do have chat open, so I will be able to see it. So if there's any questions you want to ask or any comments you want to make that we can respond to, that's definitely something we can do. So, the circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. I mean, what are your favourite parts of this particular circuit, Jens?
Well, I must say it really does look good seeing the drivers go through turn 1, 2, and then through that long sweeping right hand of turn 3.
Yeah, no, the opening section of the track in particular, I think, is probably the most challenging part of the track. The final sector is pretty challenging, but in a much less satisfying way. I think I like the flow and the speed of the first few corners of this track in particular. Of course, overtaking, somewhat more difficult here, certainly more difficult than we saw in Baku, so we're not going to see quite so many cars blasting past each other on the straight before they even get to the corner, like we did in Baku, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it means people have to fight a bit more for their positions, and fighting for position is exactly what we want to see. Just going back to the lobby, checking it quickly, still waiting on a couple of drivers to arrive at the moment, no one readying up quite yet. So we'll just stick with you for a little bit longer. 2 DRS zones around this circuit, one on the main straight down towards turn 1, which is the longest straight in the track, and another DRS zone, I believe, I'm pretty sure it's a DRS zone at least, on the exit of turn 9. I should probably know that. Can you confirm that?
Yes, I can confirm there are DRS zone between the corner of turn 9 down to that almost 180 turn of turn 10.
Excellent, right, yes. No, good to know I wasn't crazy. Yes, no, turn 9, in fact, that's another corner worthy of note around here. Particularly fast right-hander, and at the top of the hill, right at the crest of the hill as well. So it's a blind right-hander heading uphill, and it is one of the more exciting corners on the calendar, I think. And also quite a difficult one to get right, because it's high speed, but it's not quite flat out. And in these F2 cars, it definitely won't be flat out. So that's going to be a real challenge for the drivers, and I expect to see quite a lot of them dipping their wheels into the gravel trap on the outside of that particular corner throughout the race, and probably in qualifying as well. Speaking of qualifying, looks like everyone who is going to be in the lobby is here in the lobby, so we're just counting down the seconds now until we will be jetting off to the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya for the third round of the AOR Hype Energy F2 Sprint League. Just 10 seconds remaining now until we're going to be able to get into the lobby. We have 17 drivers here today, 19 people in the lobby, including myself and Jens. So that's a good count. Once again, we've had pretty good attendances so far for both of the first 2 races of the season, or the first 2 weekends of the season, I should say. That's actually the first 4 races of the season. So it's good to see that so many of these drivers are eager to come back every week and to keep on coming and keep on racing here. And we've seen really a lot of different people on the podiums already, so all of these drivers are in with a shout, I should say, of scoring some really seriously good points.
Yes, indeed, they really are. And we've only had, in the last race, we only had 3 people not showing up, and in the first race this season there were actually only 2. And again, today I believe it is only 2 people not being here, so as you said, a really nice attendance rate for this league.
Indeed, looks like one of the drivers having a little bit of trouble loading into the lobby. We of course had that trouble last weekend as well, when 2 of the drivers weren't able to load into the sprint race. Hopefully that won't happen again, but we may have to remake the whole lobby here, as one of the drivers really is struggling to get connected. Hopefully that won't have to happen, but we will have to wait and see. So once again, I'm afraid a couple more delays here for a couple more technical difficulties we're having. Nothing we can do about that one, I'm afraid, folks. But we will get you there as soon as we possibly can. One new driver is here today. That is Mo. Full name in game is Mo number 9991. Number being the hash symbol. He is the second reserve driver in this league, and he is standing in today. Not exactly sure which car he's standing in with at the moment. We'll have to wait and see once we load in to find that out. Iko is not present today. He is one of the drivers who can't make it, so he could be in Iko's dams, and it looks like we are loading in. So hopefully that's the real deal, and we'll be able to get things underway. As we are here, it seems like all of the drivers are here in the lobby. No one has left yet. So fingers crossed we will be able to keep going with this particular lobby. Not sure why it took one of the drivers quite so long to load in, but hopefully that doesn't bode ill for connection issues throughout the race for him in particular. So, as we're about to get into the one-shot qualifying then, who is it that you would like us to be looking at today?
I think let's say hop on board with Sly up in 4th place there now, coming down into turn 1, hard braking just before that 100-meter board, going through turns 1 and 2, then opening that steering up and turning into turn 3. In these Formula 2 cars, not quite flat out, but when you come to the middle of the corner, you can put your throttle down. Then hard braking into turn 4, that long 180 corner, just like turn 3, not quite as long, but quite long. Then coming down to turn 5, a small lockup, sending him down to 12th place. Then opening up through that kink of turn 6 into turn 7, then out through turn 8, and then just flat out up to that turn 9 we were talking about. Let's see, can he keep it on the track? Yes, he can. Can be quite tricky sometimes, opening the DRS, coming down into that turn 10 we were also talking about earlier. Having sure not to run wide as you can through there. Wouldn't be very beneficial. Then up through turn 12, another of those long 180 corners, then into that quite slow final part of the lap, through turn 14, then 15, and opening up through turn 16 to get that flat out and open the DRS, and comes across the line in 12th place to Mariussen, getting pole position.
Ooh, and the game sound has arrived just a little bit too late there, and in fact it's arrived a little bit loud, so I'm just going to turn that one down very quickly. Apologies for that. But yeah, no, that whole lap, unfortunately we didn't have any game sound for that lap, but beautiful commentary nonetheless, so definitely made up for it there. And as you said, it is Mariussen who takes pole. Heiko denied his third pole position by 1.5 tenths of a second. So 4 points in the bag already for Mariussen, the Swede, who promised so much last time out when he qualified third on the grid but wasn't able to transform it into any points. Skatey in third, a real veteran and one of the highest rated F1 drivers in this field. ERZ KBL in fourth. He's been challenging Heiko at every race so far. Richie B fifth, Borderline 6th, DJ Ole 7th, Cameron B8th, Sevilla 98M 9th, and the reserve Mo rounds out the top 10 in the Campos.
Yeah, really great showing from Mo there to get that 10th place and really getting on for those points that are up for grabs here, and maybe able to get on to that 8th place. I'll give him pole position for the sprint race.
Yes, of course. For those who don't know, if you come 8th in this race, you will be on pole for the sprint race, which is the second race of the weekend. Each F2 sprint weekend has 2 races. The first race, this race, which is the feature race, and the grid of that is determined by the qualifying session you have just seen. Then, after that, the top 8 finishers in this race will be reversed. So 8th place in this race will start first in the sprint race to follow, and whoever comes first in this race will start 8th. Now, everyone is on the grid already, so we're going into our formation lap here. Just going to check the tyres, see what everyone's got going on there. Okay, most of the field opting to run the normal strategy, starting on the soft tyres. However, Salty and Thompson, both down towards the back of the grid there. Thompson, I noticed, DNF'd out of qualifying. Both of the Pramers actually 16th and 17th on the grid. Not a good qualifying session for them. Salty and Thompson are starting on the hard tyres, and they will therefore be running the Contra strategy. One thing to note is last weekend we saw Dominic 18, driver currently in 17th position on this grid, was disqualified for not using both sets of tyres at the right times. What he did was he did use both sets of tyres available to him, but he pitted too early onto the medium tyres, then ran on the medium tyres for the rest of the race. He pitted before the end of lap 3, which in F2 rules you are not allowed to do, or at least it means you have to then pit again if you do. So he had to pay the price for that with a disqualification. So I may have misreported it at the time and said he hadn't changed his tyres at all. That was not the case, but he didn't do it at the right time, and that is why he was disqualified. Interesting to note that at both race weekends so far, the first race and the second race have had entirely different podiums. No one has been on the podium for both the feature race and then the sprint race of the same weekend. So it'll be interesting to see whether anyone can buck that trend today. Just getting into the final sector of the lap here on their, I was about to call it an outlap, formation lap, that's the word. It is Mariusson on pole in the Carlin, followed by Heiko in second in the Dams, Skatey in third, the sole Trident driver in this field, ERZ KBL in fourth for the NP Motorsport boys, and Richie B, who I believe missed last time out, yes he did miss last time out in the ART, is back, and he is in fifth place on the grid today. Of course, Richie did manage a second position in the sprint race in Bahrain and showed quite a lot of pace in the feature race before being taken down towards the bottom of the top 10 by an incident in that race. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do. And Borderline had really a tale of two halves last weekend. He won the first race and then was absolutely nowhere in the second race. He'll be hoping to improve on that from 6th position on the grid today. Alright, here we go then. All the drivers getting onto the grid. Dominic 18 and Thompson line up at the back of the grid. Here we go now. The lights starting to come on here. 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And we are underway here in Catalunya, and it's a good start for Mariusson. He looks solid off of the start, but actually Heiko's going to be drawing alongside him before they get to turn 1. He's looking to challenge. Meanwhile, Richie B's had a great start. He's already up into 4th, challenging for 3rd with Skatey, and he will get him. Then Heiko into the lead of this race. Mariusson fights back though through turn 2, and now into turn 3. Someone running wide in the background there. That's Richie B. As soon as I complimented his start, he throws it all away running wide, and it's Heiko that takes the lead through turn 3, but it's not over yet as they head down towards turn 4. The next major braking zone here, and not enough for Mariusson to try and reclaim that position from Heiko. So it is Heiko who leads. After not getting pole position for the first time in a feature race this season, he immediately takes first position away.
Yes, and further down we are seeing Rich having a bit of struggle, but getting past Dijon in that turn 4 corner, that 180 going side by side. Quite a tricky place to do that. Also Cameron and Sevilla were going side by side. Quite a lot of drivers actually down there in that lower top 10 fighting up to that 8th place. There's someone in the background. We're going side by side there. I think that's Borderline. Oh, I think that's Borderline almost getting spun round.
Oh, and Mo having trouble now. Sorry to cut you off there. Mo standing in for the Campos team, running wide. He was able to keep it on the island, though. He's lost 1 position from where he started, but that's not bad, all things considered. Borderline with a very messy opening lap, all the way down to 10th from what I believe was 6th place on the grid. Not a good start for that particular Dutchman. Of course, we have so many in the field at the moment, and one of them, Heiko, is leading the race by half a second from Mariusson in 2nd place. Chasing him down in the Carlin is the Swedish driver. Skatey still in 3rd, ERZ KBL and Richie B both in 4th and 5th. Richie, after running wide through turn 2 on the opening lap, didn't lose too many positions, and as such has been able to hold on to his 5th position. Then DJ Ole, Cameron B and Sevilla all up 1 position from where they started. Frico, also known as Theodule, up 2 places from when he started.
Sly and Salt is going to get into turn 1. They're both in the gravel, both have lost major parts of their front wing. None of them are out of this race yet, but Sly and Salty coming together through turn 1.
Not good news for those drivers, and especially not good news for Salty. Looks like he's come off worse for that. He's lost a lot of seconds. Meanwhile, looks like Skatey's had a problem as well. Skatey's in the wall. He's on the exit of turn 8. That's a notoriously tricky section to get the power down there, and he's veered off left into the wall. And now he is all the way down in 12th position, and I would suspect he has some front wing damage as well. That's not good news at all for the Dutch driver. He would have been hoping to maybe challenge for a win today after he wasn't able to do it last time out. And that will not help his cause whatsoever. Down in 12th position in the Trident. Meanwhile then, up towards the front of the field, Heiko has gapped Mariussen a little bit. He's just got outside of DRS range. Was it in time? Of course, DRS was not available on that lap, so of course it was in time. Heiko setting the fastest lap of the race once again. 2 laps in a row for him. DRS has now been enabled, but Mariussen is not within range to take advantage of that fact from Heiko. Heiko leading the way by 1.3 seconds at the moment from the Swede in the Carlin. ERZ KBL with a watching brief down in 3rd at the moment, a further 1.5 seconds behind Mariussen, and DJ Ole is really falling away from the back of the ERZ KBL, and in fact he has Richie B all over his case. Cameron B as well, they're both involved. It's the B team together on track once again, but neither of them can get past DJ Ole just yet.
Actually, I think Maku's been round in turn 1 as there was some yellow flags. He was going quite slowly through there for some reason. So
yeah, he's lost some time as well. He's fallen back behind SLI, and we saw that SLI lost a lot of time in his incident with Salty, so Maku must have gone round as well. 4 drivers already having fallen slightly by the wayside in this race. You can see them. Skatey, SLI, Maku and Salty have all had incidents so far in this race. Meanwhile, it looks like Frico is making a move on his teammate Sevilla there, up into turn 10, and it's Frico up into 7th position. Good move from the French driver, who's up 4 positions from where he started on the grid in his Uni Virtuosi. Look, a real train of cars here at the moment behind DJ Ole. You sense that the Sauber Junior team driver is holding up these guys quite significantly. It's Richie B in the ART who has the best chance of getting past him at the moment, 1 place behind him, and then Cameron B in the Campos not far behind him as well, and then come the 2 Uni Virtuosi drivers. Richie B looks like he's going to try and make the move here, and he's got it done comfortably by the look of things. Big lockup though from the ART driver, but he gets it slowed down in time, and he has taken 4th position away from DJ Ole. Will he be able to hold on to it by the time they get into turn 4 though? Maku with a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He's pitted on lap 4, so that means that if he does change onto the hard tyres, that is legitimate and he will not be disqualified by the end of the race. But that 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane after he's already had a big error in this race, not good news for the Polish driver in the second of the 2 Carlins. And Richie B has been able to hold on to 4th position. He briefly had 4th position. In fact, he even had 3rd position after an excellent start off the grid. But he threw it all away in turn 2 and had to regain the position. Spent a couple of critical laps stuck behind the Sauber Junior team driver DJ Ole. And as such, he has lost a lot of time to ERZ KBL, Mariussen and Heiko, who are currently 3 seconds ahead of him and more.
Owen Salty has been round through turn 1 as well. And only 3-lap old hard tyres. Quite interesting to see how many drivers are having trouble with that turn 1-2. You actually also Maku. Yes, Maku's in the gravel on cold hard tyres just coming out of the pits. Just showing how tricky that turn is. Borderline also getting a 3-second time penalty.
Ooh, looks like Cameron's trying to make a move on DJ Ole into turn 1. Sorry to cut you off once again, but Cameron B up into 5th position as he sends it up the inside of turn 1. But no, it's a switchback from DJ Ole and they come together. And DJ Ole and Cameron have come together in the worst possible way there into the gravel. DJ Ole might have been into the wall as well in his car. The Sauber Junior team by Charoux's car all the way down into 9th and 10th for these 2 at the moment. The Pramers will be coming through shortly as well. Dominic comes through and Cameron B's really struggling to regain the track at the moment. Similar thing can be said for DJ Ole as they struggle to get the gravel off their tyres. It looked like a clean fight until that moment. They just came together. The right front of Cameron B with the left rear of DJ Ole as he tried to make the move on the Campos driver, and both of them ends in tears there into the gravel, and that is not good news for these drivers who are fighting for some solid points-paying positions. Meanwhile, Mo, he's actually inside Sevilla at the moment. I'm not quite sure why he ghosted there, but he has been able to pass the Spaniard as a result of that, and the reserve driver is up into 6th position with his car bouncing along very peculiarly on the track there, and once again they're ghosting into each other, so I can only assume that these guys are desynchronized from one another and therefore cannot see each other, but I'm not exactly sure what's going on with those two.
Yes, it is quite a sign of desync when cars do that. But hopefully they'll be able to sort that out with their connections on track, or the game at least can do that. As we see, KBL pit in. He will be going on to the hard tyres to go to the end of this race.
His pit garage all the way at the end of the pit lane here for the MP Motorsport boys. He will, as you said, be strapping on a hard set of tyres. There they are. They've turned white just in time. Where will he come out relative to the rest of the field? Surely he'll be ahead of Borderline, who is the closest competitor. Other competitors who have already pitted. Cameron B also came into the pits at the end of this lap. DJ Ole and SLI, same story for them as well. And ERZ KBL comes back out in 10th position, which is behind everyone who hasn't pit yet, with the exception of Salty, but ahead of everyone who has pit. So that's good news indeed for the MP Motorsport driver, who was running in 3rd position before coming into the pits.
Yes, he currently holds a 35-second gap to Heiko, so he will probably be towards the top, but not quite able to overtake Heiko as he all drifts through turn 5 there. Very interesting to see how he's struggling on those fresh hard tyres.
Yeah, and as you said, it's the lack of heat in these hard tyres. Once again, he has a major moment on the exit of turn 8. He was pretty calm in the cockpit though and held on to the slide, but that was probably a bit of heart-in-mouth stuff for the German in the MP Motorsport car, and it does seem like a lot of these drivers really are struggling with the first lap on the new set of hard tyres. And Richie B with a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. His race has been a real mixed bag so far. Excellent very beginning of the race, and then it all went wrong after that. And then he slowly was getting better again, and then a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Not what the ART driver needed. Of course, all of the race leaders came into the pits on this lap. Heiko, who was leading the race comfortably, is going to come back out of the pits again, well ahead of ERZ KBL by the look of things. AOR Thompson just going through the screen there. He's running the contra strategy, so he'll be someone to watch out for towards the end of the race. But at the moment, it's Frico who is leading this race. The Frenchman in the Univirtuosi car has yet to come into the pits. BioLite is in 2nd in his ART. Thompson in 3rd. Each of those drivers have not pitted. And Heiko in 4th, but he will be in 1st position once all the pit stops have shaken out. Looks like ERZ KBL and Richie B having a bit of a battle here. Interesting that ERZ KBL should have had an undercut there, but because he was struggling so much on his cold tyres and sliding around all over the place, he actually almost lost out to Richie B, who was behind him before they came into the pits. So that is interesting to see that the undercut, at least for 1 lap length of undercut, is not necessarily what you want to be going for around here.
Well, definitely not. As we have seen a lot of drivers through that turn 1, 2, 3 complex having issues with the cold tyres.
Looks like another driver that's lost out in the pit stop quite significantly is Cameron B there. He's actually managed to find his way behind the likes of Sevilla, Mo and Dominic, who he came into the pits as almost around the same lap time, 1 lap earlier than those guys, and him and DJ Ole have actually lost a lot of time. Of course, they had their incident into turn 1. That is why they are down there. Sorry for that. I completely forgot about that one for a moment, even though that was a very major moment of the race so far. So my apologies for that. That is why they are currently sitting down in 12th and 13th position, and they are probably uncomfortable with how close to each other they are on track on the moment, considering what has happened between those two drivers so far in this race. Frico, who was the erstwhile race leader for about a lap, has come into the pits and will be coming back out again somewhere in the top 10. So that's pretty good news for him. He had been just ahead of his teammate before coming into the pits, and he looks like he will exit the pits slightly further ahead of him than he had been before. So interesting, the undercut not working for Sevilla there either in his battle with his teammate in the Univirtuosi.
And Dominic and BioLite almost going side by side coming through turn 1. BioLite just not having the traction through those first couple of corners to be able to follow. Some yellow flags in sector 3 now gone away, but has come back. Oh, and it's for Sevilla. Sevilla has been round, I can't quite see where, but in sector 2.
That's turn 5 that he's gone, yep. Turn 5 has meant that the Spaniard has come unstuck in his Univirtuosi and he's gone around. That's lost him a significant amount of time and probably taken a lot of life out of his tyres that he will be ruining towards the end of the race once these tyres start to go off. Heiko, by the way, has moved himself back up into first position in this race. Looks like he got Thompson at the hairpin at the end of the back straight there, turn 10. And the Dutchman is once again comfortably in the lead as Thompson stays out for another lap on his hard tyres that he started the race on. Mariusson will be hoping to close down the Prema driver as quick as he possibly can, and once he does, to get past him as quick as he possibly can. If he has any hope of challenging Heiko towards the end of this race, it doesn't look like any of the other drivers in this field will be able to challenge the Dutchman for the win of this race. ERZ KBL a further 3 seconds behind Mariusson in what will become third position. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to do anything about Heiko's lead.
But looking further down, we're seeing Skatey trying to get past Bylight, not getting the DRS for some reason, but Joel trying to join in, going 3 wide, coming into turn 1 almost. Joel not able to get it, but Skatey going down on the inside of Bylight, getting that 12th place.
Great battling down here, and it's not even for any points as they are battling over 12th position at the moment, as you mentioned. Cameron B just up ahead as well, and Sevilla not far ahead of him after his incident. So these guys can hope to regain a point scoring position, but it's unlikely they're going to be able to challenge for reverse grid pole. Still over half of the race remaining, so they may well be able to close down the 6 seconds worth of gap that seems to be the most daunting mountain these guys are going to have to climb if they're going to hope to claim 8th position and thus reverse grid pole away from Mo, that's currently sitting between Dominic and Mo, between 8th and 9th position. They've got to get to 9th position before they can even start thinking about that right now. And if they're battling each other over 12th, 13th and 11th position, then that's not going to be helping their lap times at all. And DJ Ole's gone around. He's had an incident there as well. I heard a little bit of contact when we were on board with BioLite there, and it seems like DJ Ole just went straight into the side of the ART driver and has had a spin once again. So 2 instances of contact for DJ Ole in this race, and both of them resulted in him facing the wrong way and off the track. So not a good race for the Sauber Junior team, with Salty currently sitting down in 16th position after an incident early in the race as well.
Talking about Salty, he has just gone round and into the gravel trap of turn 12. Down 16th, he hasn't had the race that he was hoping for. And definitely not on that country strategy, trying to utilize starting on those hard tyres and then going on to the softs. Really not working out for him.
Meanwhile, now, Sevilla has a bit of a train behind him in his Univirtuosi. He took a lot out of his tyres with that spin that we saw. And so Cameron B, Skatey are both sitting close behind the 10th position car of Sevilla 98M, hoping that they will be able to make a move on him sooner rather than later so they can start chasing down Dominic and Mo up ahead to gain more and more points and a better grid position for the sprint race as well. Cameron B very deep on the brakes there, and in fact Skatey takes that opportunity and sneaks right up the inside of the Campos driver. Cameron B looks like he just caught himself out on the brakes there, maybe almost went in a little too deep and almost ran into the back of Sevilla 98M, and as a result Skatey has been able to sneak past him. Meanwhile, Thompson and Mariusson have switched positions. The Swede in the Carlin has moved himself up in his 2nd position. It was just a matter of time really, with his lap tyres 6 laps younger than Thompson's in the Prema, and Thompson running the contra strategy will be hoping to head into the pits any time now because his tyres are probably going to be crying enough sooner rather than later. No one able to make a move on Sevilla this lap though into turn 1. He's been able to hold his position ahead of Skatey. Skatey's tyres are 1 lap older than Cameron B's and 2 laps older than Sevilla's. So the longer they go into the race, the bigger the advantage will be that Sevilla has over the Trident behind him with that 2-lap differential in the age of their tyres. Severe with a bit of a lock-up though in turn 4. Skatey repays the favour by locking up into turn 5, so they're both taking quite a lot of life out of these tyres, trying desperately to either stay ahead of the other or get ahead of the other.
Yeah, and right as you were talking about that, we've had Salty gone around again in that turn 12 corner. Really not suiting him today.
Looks like there's going to be a change of position here as Sevilla ran a little bit wide on the exit of turn 9. Got it ever so slightly wrong. They're going to be side by side through turn 10 here. But Skatey goes all the way around the outside, moves himself up into 10th position, claims 1 championship point for that move. It deserved more because it was an excellent move from the young Dutchman. But Sevilla has now dropped out of the points, and it looks like it's going to go from bad to worse for him as Cameron B is all over the back of him, and he gets a really poor exit through turn 15. Turn 16 is going to be a struggle for him, and he's not going to have anywhere near as much straight line speed. And in fact, something has happened. He's disappeared some ways. Cameron's just absolutely gone past him way sooner than I thought he was. That was really confusing me there. But Cameron has now passed Sevilla, and Sevilla is having trouble down there in 12th position in the Univirtuosi. Meanwhile, 2 drivers closing up behind Thompson, who is yet to come into the pit still. ERZ KBL and Richie B have concertinaed up behind the Prema driver, and Richie B is now in with a sniff of taking what will be the bottom step of the podium away from the German driver in the MP Motorsport car, who now sends it up the inside of turn 9 on Thompson. And no, there's contact again, and he's round! And ERZ KBL's lost one of his wheels, and he's out of the session. Hard into the wall for the German driver there, and terrible news for him. Richie B, though, he'll be rubbing his hands with glee about that. An incident between Thompson and ERZ KBL, 2 German drivers on the grid, and they've come together in the worst possible way. Thompson got away with it, although his tyres really are starting to feel the worst now as you saw him sliding through the final sector here. He'll surely be coming into the pit sooner rather than later. Will it be this lap? No, he stays out for another lap. Richie B won't be too happy about that, but he's going to have to try and make the move into turn 1 on this lap.
Has the speed to do it, but you never know. He may go for that lunge, or he will. We'll wait until turn 4. Cameron now getting a 3-second time penalty.
Oops, Skatey and Dominic have switched positions. There was a big gap between those 2 drivers recently, so I think Dominic must have had a small error somewhere around this track, and the Prema driver moves down into 9th position, and with the demise of ERZ KBL, that means that Skatey is now sitting in the all-important reverse grid pole for the sprint race, which will be coming up after this feature race is done. And that's good news for Skatey. A good recovery drive from him after some incidents earlier on. He's been helped by incidents for other drivers as well. Sevilla, Cameron B, DJ Ole, and ERZ KBL have all had pretty significant moments in this race that have changed the race for the worse for them. And they would have probably been ahead of Skatey if they hadn't had those incidents. So he's been a bit fortunate there that the other drivers have also made mistakes just like he did. But he has nevertheless shown good pace in reclaiming his 8th position and passing multiple drivers to do so.
Yeah, now looking at Richie B up in that 4th position. So yellow flags in sector 2.
Sevilla, it's Sevilla who's gone round once again. Just going to quickly go over to check with him as Thompson actually dives into the pits there, and it's the exit of turn 8 once again. We've seen multiple drivers having incidents there, and Sevilla dropped it under traction, I can only assume. I don't think he was battling with any other drivers on track, and he's now down into 13th position, losing yet another couple of positions in his Univirtuosi. He's really having a tough time of it on these hard tyres, and in fact these hard tyres really seem to be catching out quite a lot of the drivers here. They're really having some issues with them. Thompson, though, into the pits, the only driver who remained on the contra strategy after Salty had an incident early on. He's currently in the pits as well, but right down the bottom of the field. Thompson will come out in 10th position here, and he will be hoping that he can gain a couple of extra positions. In fact, it's going to be 11th as Biolite goes through as well into turn 1. Thompson now, though, with fresh, soft tyres compared to old, hard tyres on almost literally everyone else in the race, means that he will be looking good if he tries to battle with these guys up ahead, closing them down, hoping to claim a couple more points in this race for himself.
Now looking at Cameron, he's still quite close to Dominic That they are now fighting for that reverse grid pole. Maybe he will be able to take it on the back straight here with the DRS if Dominic doesn't keep it clean, as there were a bit of swerving off the back end there. I think he kept it quite cleanly on track. Cameron with a small lock up there. They are real close here, coming through that third sector. Can be quite tricky to manage being behind another car, but looks like Cameron has been able to keep it close enough to the Dominic. Having a bit of trouble coming out of that final turn 15, but so had Cameron. Opening the DRS, trying to make a move into turn 1, but not having quite enough speed, it looks. Or does he? No, he goes for the move down the inside. They go side by side, having a bit of a touch, and Cameron has almost gone round and is onto the grass, just coming into that battle with a bit too much speed. And maybe Dominic wasn't quite aware that he was going for that move, and just the slightest of contact making Cameron go round just a slight bit onto the grass. Oh, and Dominic having trouble into turn 4, I believe, having a big lock up and then letting Cameron by before entering back on to the track. So both the drivers having trouble in different corners.
Yeah, that's such a shame for Dominic in the Prema. He had just defended reverse grid pole very successfully from Cameron B. Cameron B went into the side of him, had an incident that had nothing to do with Dominic. Dominic did no wrongdoing in that incident, and it looked like because of that half spin that Dominic was going to be able to secure 8th position with only 3 laps remaining in this race. But then he goes, and without having even finished the first sector of the lap, has an incident of his own and falls back down into 9th position instead. He really threw that chance away there, and that's great news for Thompson, who is now that much closer to both of these drivers after they've both had major incidents on the last lap, and he will be closing them down bit by bit, lap after lap, with so much fresh tyres. And there you can see the effect of it. The fastest lap of the race, a 1:32.3 for Thompson. Of course, there are 2 points available for whoever gets the fastest lap of the race, as long as they finish inside of the top 10. So at the moment, that will be Thompson that takes those 2 points for the fastest lap of the race. So that's something that is very beneficial for him, and it's another benefit of running the contra strategy rather than starting on the softs and then going on to the hards. Thompson did the reverse. He was brave after DNFing in the qualifying session. He had to really throw the dice here to try and gain some positions, and it looks like it's working pretty well for him so far. You can see on this lap already he's gained about a second on Dominic up ahead, his teammate. And Dominic, well, I don't know if these guys are going to be battling each other too hard. They are teammates after all. I don't know how much they play by teammate rules, but Thompson will be closing up to him very, very quickly indeed as they get towards the latter stages of this race. Now only a couple of laps to go. Out at the front it is Heiko leading the way as DJ Ole and BioLite look like they're having a bit of a battle there. Side by side they go through turn 10 there, and DJ Ole has claimed the position away from BioLite. He's up into 11th position, but unless something happens to one of the top 10 runners, which is far from impossible considering how this race has been so far, it doesn't look like they're going to be getting any points for their efforts in this race.
This very unfortunate, as both those drivers down there had an okay start, but Joel having dropped 4 positions in this race, really showing that he hasn't had the best.
Yeah, he's had a really tough time this race. Multiple incidents has DJ Ole had. Dominic with a 3-second time penalty means that he is definitely going to lose his position to AOR Thompson come the end of the race, because Thompson currently sitting on 0 time penalties, I do believe. Actually, let's not forget that Richie B has a 5-second time penalty in his pocket at the moment, looming over him, and Borderline is within 5 seconds of the driver up ahead. So as things stand, I'm pretty sure it'll be Borderline who will round out the podium positions rather than Richie B. Thompson has made a move on his teammate and is now up into 9th position in the Prema. He will be hoping that he can close down Cameron B as quick as he possibly can, but it looks like time is running out for the Prema driver to try and steal away the reverse grid pole.
Actually, I do believe that Borderline also have a 5-second penalty.
Ooh.
Yes, he does. Both Borderline and Richie B having 5-second time penalties. But Frico in 5th is clean off penalties. He does have 2 warnings though, so you will have to be careful not to get a 3-second time penalty.
Yeah, and the driver behind him is about to change here, sorry, as Skatey up into 6th position, gets very deep on the brakes though. Mo will be able to battle it back around the outside of turn 2. Into turn 3 they go now, and it's Mo who has the advantage on Skatey. Skatey clinging on there, his tyres are 2 laps older, but he looks like he's the faster driver around here at the moment, and Mo defends the inside into turn 4. Skatey around the outside, can he keep it on the track? Yes he can. Can he keep it up the inside for turn 5? Yes, he can. And it is Skatey in the Trident who moves up into 5th position as he shoves the Campos out of the way. And Mo has to concede the position. And Skatey, will he go defensive here into turn 7 and 8? No, he will not. And he doesn't need to, because he has claimed 6th position, taking it away from the reserve driver, who is having an excellent race to be up in 7th position at the moment. Great stuff from the second reserve driver in this field. And Dominic with another 3-second time penalty means that if DJ Ole doesn't have any time penalties, which I'm not certain about, that he will actually claim 10th position in this race.
Check on those penalties for you, because that will mean that DJ Ole is without penalties and warnings, so he is completely clean down in 11th there. What will be 10th if he can keep within 6 seconds of Dominic.
Yeah, it shows that battle he was having with BioLite wasn't pointless after all, as Dominic has possibly thrown away the chance of claiming 1 point in this race. I'm sure he won't feel too gutted about it. It is only 1 point after all, but a points finish just feels so much better than a non-points finish, and he will be unhappy to say the least, I'm sure, having picked up 2 separate 3-second time penalties in this race. Mo, by the way, has stuck really close to the back of Skatey ever since Skatey passed the Campos stand-in. And so that's interesting to see that Skatey isn't able to drop Mo behind him, as I expected he would when he came past. I thought Skatey would just be faster and drive away, but maybe he's feeling the age of his tyres. Him and Borderline joint have the oldest tyres in the field at the moment, both 14 laps on this current set of hard tyres, as we're heading now towards the very final stage of the race. And here is Heiko. We've hardly seen him in this race because he's had such a good performance. 2.5 seconds he has on his nearest counterpart Mariusson as he crosses the line and takes his 3rd win, his 2nd feature race win of the season. Mariusson drops even further behind with a 3-second time penalty. He claims 2nd position though, does the Swedish driver in the Carlin. Richie be over the line in 3rd. Borderline wouldn't have claimed the position away anyway because he finished with further behind than 5 seconds, but of course he had his own 5-second penalty, so it's a moot point as he comes home in 4th. Frico a long way off the back of Borderline in 5th, but he regains 5 seconds of that time due to that penalty. Skatey in 6th with a great recovery drive. Mo in 7th, and Cameron B looks like he is going to be able to hold off Thompson. He is. Thompson really didn't have the legs on him in the end, but no! Thompson does take the position away because Cameron B had a 3-second time penalty, so Thompson does get reverse grid pole in the end. That's great news for the Prema driver. That's pretty much all he could have hoped for in this race after starting so far down the bottom of the field.
Great drive from him, great on that contra strategy, and that really shows that when you start further down, if you keep your race clean, you can make a contra strategy work.
Yeah, we've seen quite a few times so far in this race, and it's something you see in real life F2 as well, is that the contra strategy really can be very powerful here, as the tyres are so sensitive on these Formula 2 cars, and it's really hard to look after them. They really go off in a big way when they do go off. So having those fresh tyres towards the end of the race and the softer tyres towards the end of the race can really make a huge difference. But here they are, they're on the podium. It is Heiko taking his 3rd win of the season for Dams. He's really looking like the man to beat so far in this season. And it's Mariusson 2nd, his first points finish so far this season, after DNFing in Baku. And then Richie B with a return to form after missing the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. He claims third position from 5th on the grid. Borderline, after a really poor start to the race, dropping down outside of the top 10, I think, or at least to 10th position on the opening lap. Good recovery drive from him to finish up in 6th position. Benefited, of course, by not making any major mistakes like some of the other drivers throughout the field did. Frico with a quiet but good race for Univirtuosi, not having any of the problems his teammate had after they ran together throughout the first stint of the race. He comes home in 5th, Skatey 6th, Mo 7th, Thompson 8th, Cameron B and Dominic round out the top 10. DJ Ole wasn't able to claim the position away from Dominic in the end.
No, and of course, looking at Thompson, not only did he get that reverse grip pull, but he also got the 2 extra points for getting the fastest lap of the race.
Have you had another incident there, Jens? Are you in the session still, or have you... Because I got a message saying that you've disconnected from the session.
I have, for some reason.
Okay, interesting, because that did happen last weekend as well, so hopefully that's not something that's going to recur every single weekend. This time, though, you do have a backup invite. We remembered to do that this time, so you should, with any luck, be able to get back into the session before the race starts. We do, of course, have a formation lap as well to give you just that little bit of extra time.
Yes, indeed. Currently just waiting for the game to load me back on to the main screen so I can use your backup invite for that lobby.
Alright, as the formation lap gets underway, and actually a bit of an interesting strategy to open the formation lap from Mo there as he veers straight off of the road in his Campos. He is not going to disadvantage him too much. It is the formation lap after all. He will be able to reclaim his 2nd position on the grid, but it is Thompson who ran the contra strategy last time out, and his reward is pole position in this race, as well as 4 points from the last race for finishing in 8th. Mo will be starting in 2nd after finishing 7th in the feature race, and Skatey up in 3rd. Watch out for him in this race. He's going to be a really strong contender here if he can keep his car on the island. Frico will be in 4th, Borderline 5th. Richie B, Mariuson, and your feature race winner Heiko will once again be starting from 8th position here in the sprint race at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. ERZ KBL, watch out for him trying to make a recovery drive through the field. He has pace, but after his DNF in the opening race of this weekend, he will be starting right from the back of the grid.
Yeah, and I can't get back in the lobby.
You can't get... not at all?
No, when I tried loading up trying to press spectate after using your backup invite, it just crashed the lobby for me or disconnected me again.
Oh no, that is such bad news. Do you have, I suppose you have another backup invite anywhere, do you?
No, I think I'm
Okay.
out, just like last week.
Okay, well, you're welcome once again to stick around and pass comment whenever you have anything to say. But it looks like I am going to be riding solo for the most part for the remainder of this race. So sorry about that to everyone. Not much we can do about it, just some technical difficulties once again, which seems to be the name of the game here in the F2 Sprint League this weekend at least. A lot of lobby issues as well. To start the weekend off, didn't bode well, and it's all gone wrong for Jens. So thank you very much for joining me though, and of course you will be sticking around. And if you don't have anything to say during the race, I'll come to you at the end of the race just for your closing thoughts on what happened here. But now the drivers are finally lining up here on the grid. A little bit of a big gap, actually. A big gap between Sevilla and SLI means that some of these drivers will be getting onto the grid a little bit later, and Sevilla will be the last driver of them all to line up here on the grid today. But here we go now, getting ready to get underway. Looking for a good camera angle. Here we go. 3 red lights, up to 5 already. A long hold though for the drivers, but we do get underway here in Spain. And it is Mo that gets the best start. I think no Skatey already alongside him. And actually, the Campos driver, after a good reaction time, bogged down a little bit in 2nd gear. And it's Skatey challenging Thompson into turn 1. But Thompson, the Prema driver, has the legs on the Trident. And someone's going well off there. That looked like an MP Motorsport car. That must have been Borderline, who completely flubbed his braking zone into turn 1. D-Sync cars in the background as well. Let's ignore them for now. And Borderline with a 10-second time. time penalty because he didn't come back on the track in the right way. Meanwhile, Skatey and Thompson are going side by side for the lead here, and it looks like Skatey might just have been able to go all the way around the outside of turn 4. Thompson battling back now with the inside line. It turns to the outside for turn 5 though, and Skatey should be able to shut the door on his counterpart here. Thompson tries to go all the way around the outside. Very fair driving from Skatey, gives him plenty of room, but he doesn't need to shut the door in the end as Skatey gets the superior run out of the corner down towards turn 8, and he has cemented his claim on P1. I told you he'd be one to watch in this race, and within half of the first lap, Skatey has moved himself up into first position. Mariusson with a great start as well, already up into 4th from 7th on the grid. Just check the position changes throughout the field. ERZ KBL, what has happened to him? He's up 9 positions from where he started. Salty's been disqualified for the session for driving the wrong way. He was at the back of the field anyway, though. But ERZ KBL, how has he managed that? That is just unbelievable from the German driver. I did say he'd be another one to watch, and, well, he's proved it right there. Maku up 6 positions as well. I think there must have been quite a lot of incidents for several of the drivers that has helped these guys gain so many positions on the opening lap as DJ Ole and Biolite fighting once again. And it looks like Biolite's actually just ran wide through the penultimate corner there, and DJ Ole's been able to take the position away from him. Mo, pretty close behind Thompson, but not close enough to make a move on this lap. Mariusson and Cameron B pretty close as well. No, Mariusson's actually considerably ahead of Cameron B at the moment. There seems to be a bit of a gap developing between them, and Frico has DNF'd from the race. Not good news for the Frenchman. He has started in 4th position, but he dropped all the way down towards the back on that opening lap, and Borderline has retired from the session as well with his 10-second time penalty. And the big incident he had going into turn 1, it just looked like he completely missed his braking zone, and he was driving off the track to avoid crashing into any of the other drivers. Good of him to do that, to make sure he didn't crash into anyone else and ruin their races along with his own. But tragic for him that he hasn't been able to remain in this race here. And Mariusson very close behind Mo at the moment. The timing board appears to be incorrect, so we're just going to have to find a way to deal with that one, because it says that Mariusson is 1.1 seconds behind Mo, but that's clearly not the case, and he's right up the gearbox of the reserve driver in the Campos. Maku, after his excellent start, loses a position to Sevilla, and actually the gap between these two drivers suggests that Maku might have had a bit of an issue of his own somewhere in the second sector of this lap. He's been having quite a lot of spins, quite a lot of major moments in his Carlin, so he'll be hoping just for a cleaner race, if nothing else, here in the sprint race. Fewer laps to keep the concentration up for, to keep the tyres going for. 13 laps they will have to do on these hard tyres. Just going to double check, make sure everyone started on the hard tyres. They did, and it's Skatey throwing down the gauntlet, setting the fastest lap of the race here with a 1:33.8, I think that was, and 1.8 seconds already between him and the rest of the field. Richie B, though, showing that he's not one to be messed with. Currently sitting down in 13th, though, after a poor opening lap for him. Lost 7 positions as Maku loses another position going down into turn 1 there. Mariusson and Mo look like they're going side by side. Going to jump on board with the Campos driver here as he has the Carlin up his inside, and it is Mariusson that takes the position away and already moves himself up into the podium positions. I said no one's managed so far this season to be on the podium for both races at the same weekend. It looks like the Swede has something to say about that, as he's already up into 3rd position and came 2nd in the last race. Look at this train of cars right now behind Thompson. Struggling for pace, seemingly the Prema driver is with migrating host. That's not very good news. I hope everything's alright. Heiko, I believe, is the host of this session. He still seems to be in the session. That migrating hosting seems like it's just going to keep doing that, so my apologies for that. Don't know what it is, but everything seems okay. There seems to be a couple of issues with desync going on in the lobby as Mariusson already up in a 2nd position, wasting no time in reclaiming 2nd position that he had in the feature race. He's already back up there now in the sprint race, and he'll be hoping he can close down Skatey as quick as he possibly can. And with the pace he was showing getting past Mo and Thompson there, ruthless stuff from the Swede, and he's up in a 2nd position. Ooh, bit of a moment there for Heiko coming out of the final corner, and Mo's had a moment of his own, and no! He tries to reclaim the line, shoves Dominic off the road there. Very, very rude driving indeed from Mo. Wouldn't be surprised to see him pick up a penalty for that one, as it really looked like he just pushed the German off of the track. The German driver had nowhere to go there. Heiko up the inside of Cameron B into turn 1, and all of a sudden this is 4th position that Heiko's trying to take. He was 7th at the start of this lap, or rather at the end of the last one, but now he's 4th as he takes the position away from Cameron B, and it's ERZ KBL. Ooh, the timing tower is not enjoying this one. Everything Ooh, I don't know what's happening here. The migrating host, the lag issues, the desync, it all seems to be getting worse. I'll try and keep commentating on this race and keep bringing you the action. Looks like it's just about returning to normality here. The game thinks Maku is in the lead. I can assure you that is not the case. It is Skatey who is leading this race with Mariussen in second. Thompson currently sitting in third and Heiko in fourth. ERZ KBL already right up behind his championship rival Heiko, but it is Heiko that's got a comfortable lead in the championship at the moment. But ERZ KBL has also passed Cameron B at some point in this lap, and that means that ERZ KBL in the MP Motorsport car is up 12 positions from where he started. Oh, a big slide there, a four-wheel drift from the MP of ERZ KBL into turn 10, but it doesn't seem to have cost him much time at all, actually, as he's still pretty close up behind Heiko. Maku has regained normality down in 13th position in the Carlin, so that issue seems to have sorted itself out a little bit, unless I am desynchronized from him, which is of course a possibility, in which case he's probably going to keep jumping up and down the timing tower, so we'll have to wait and see if that's what happens. Dominic with his third 3-second time penalty of the weekend, his first one of this race, but he picked up 2 in the feature race as well, so he needs to start working on his clean driving. I think he's just extending the track here, cutting corners there, and it's just costing him time as he picks up these penalties. Cameron B close behind ERZ KBL at the moment, but not able to make a move so far. This is of course the home race for the Campos team, the Spanish team with the orange cars here. Cameron B and Mo is standing in for this team. Cameron B a regular driver for them, of course. And it is Cameron flying the flag at the moment up in 6th, but Mo is not far behind as well, and he had a good race last time out to secure some decent points, so he will be hoping that he can do them proud in this race once again. Mariussen is closing down Skatey. He's gained about a second on him in the last couple of laps. Mariussen has the pace here, and we may well get a battle for the lead before this race is done. Into turn 10 here, it is Cameron B who is close behind ERZ KBL. Not going to be able to make the move into turn 10 this time, but it does look like it's only a matter of time, which is interesting because ERZ KBL passed Cameron earlier on in this race, so to see Cameron pretty close up behind the MP car is a bit of a turn up for the books, but of course these guys are all being held up a little bit, pretty significantly in fact, by Thompson, who really doesn't seem to have the pace after starting from pole position here and after a great race last time out to go from 16th on the grid to 8th. He just doesn't seem to quite have the same pace as the other drivers around here, although he seems to be running perhaps lower wings because he got such a good run onto the main straight there that Heiko has no chance of getting past the German up ahead in the Prema. So Thompson may just be able to hold this train of cars behind him and ruin all their races, but he won't care about that if it helps him get third position, his second podium of the season, after he won, of course, the sprint race in Bahrain. Didn't go well for him in Baku, and he'll be hoping for better this weekend. Of course, it didn't start well with the qualifying session, meaning that he had to start in 16th position on the grid in the feature race, but he has made the best of it since then, and he will be hoping that he can just hold on to this position, keep ahead of the Dutchman behind. But Heiko, the current championship leader, has looked like the class of the field, so if there's a driver that you're going to stroll to keep behind, it's probably going to be him. Meanwhile, up at the front, the gap has stabilised at around 1.6 seconds at the moment between Skatey and Marius. And in fact, I think at the end of last lap, it was a little bit closer between these two drivers. So Skatey doing well as Heiko almost looked like he was making a move on Thompson there on the exit of turn 10, but he didn't. And the Prema driver has held on to third position, but it does seem like it's only a matter of time before Heiko at least gets past Thompson, and there's a couple of cars queuing up behind who will be knocking on the door to pass the German in the Prema as soon as they possibly can as well, once Heiko has managed it. Of course, we could see an excellent defence from Thompson here, but it looks like it's going to be a lot harder this lap as Heiko gets a great run out of the final corner. He's going to be alongside Thompson well before they even get to the braking zone, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the Dams driver going up into third position here. He gets to brake later than Thompson. He has the correct line, and he gets it all the way around the outside, ahead in the braking zone, and the Dams driver moves up into third position, and he's looking to become another driver to claim 2 podium finishes on the same race weekend. Mariussen, of course, already doing that up ahead, but the gap between Heiko and Mariussen after Heiko was held up for lap after lap by Thompson means that it's not going to be any better than third position that Heiko can hope for unless a miracle happens and Mariussen and Skatey have some incident up ahead. Thompson, though, really struggling at this phase of the race. You can see RZ KBL also behind him now. Really close between these two guys. And of course we saw them come together in the last race, and that was the cause of ERZ KBL's DNF from that last race. It was right here that him and Thompson were side by side. Thompson veered to the right just like he did then, with a little bit of oversteer, I think, and ERZ KBL was sent packing into the wall and lost his front left tyre, I believe, or maybe it was his front right. Either way, he was out of the race, and as such didn't score any points and had to make this amazing recovery drive in this race that we've seen from him, up 12 positions from where he started. It was up 9 after the opening lap. I didn't see the opening lap from ERZ KBL, but it must have been an absolute sight to behold. One of the best opening laps of the season, but so far, no doubt about that at all. Skatey sets the fastest lap of the race in the Trident at 1:32.9, and that's just showing Heiko, that, rather Mariussen behind him, that he is not going to give up first position easily in this race. And with only 5 laps to go, Mariussen really needs to start making some more inroads on Skatey. The gap staying stable at around 1.5 seconds at the moment, though. Looks like we may well see some more battling for 4th position as Thompson trying to hold on. Mo and Dominic going side by side, and Dominic's actually claimed the position away from Mo. Mo looks like he's having a few issues here, lagging a little bit in the Campos. And as you can see, some desync going on between these guys. Sevilla and Mo not there on each other's screens. They cannot see one another. So when they drive into each other, they are not seeing all this that we are seeing. We'll just skip away from that for the moment, I think, as Cameron is close behind ERZ KBL, but it's going to be a struggle to make a move on the MP car up ahead, because the MP car will have DRS on Thompson every time that Cameron would have DRS on his ERZ KBL. So really he's not going to have the same sort of advantage, but as soon as I say that, ERZ KBL runs wide on the exit of turn 9, doesn't get the same traction advantage that Cameron B is able to do, and ERZ KBL does have to go defensive there. But Cameron, not brave enough to stick it down the outside there, just holds on to 6th position for now. Sevilla and Mo seem to have separated themselves for the moment, having a little bit less fun than they were, as they were jumping all over each other. Skatey with another fastest lap of the race so far, incrementally slightly faster in lap by lap at the moment for the Trident. And of course, 2 points for fastest lap in this race as well. I think it was Thompson that claimed those 2 points last time out for the fastest lap of the race, and we will see if it is Skatey come the end of this race that still holds on to that fastest lap. AOR Thompson still ahead of the 2 cars behind, ERZ KBL and Cameron B. Neither of them have been able to change this status quo at the moment. We saw it took Heiko a few laps to do, and Heiko's possibly the strongest driver in this field. So these guys are really going to be struggling to try and get past Thompson. Thompson doing a stellar job here of holding on to 4th position at the moment, with a clear lack of pace in that Prema car. He's nevertheless putting the car in all the right places to defend that position and getting the traction laid down perfectly when he needs to make sure he can defend the position, unlike he was able to do with Heiko. Mo looks like he's had another incident here as DJ Ole has made his way past the stand-in Campos driver. It started well for Mo. He started in 2nd position. I believe he was 2nd on the grid in this race. In fact, yes, he was. But it's gone wrong for him now, down 8 positions from where he started. But he can take heart from the fact that he had a solid first race. As Sevilla very wide through turn 10. He's lost 1 position at least to DJ Ole there. He'll probably have Mo all alongside him as well. In fact, they're going to be inside of one another once again if they do come into contact with each other, because once again, as I mentioned, they are not there on each other's screens. Mariussen with the fastest lap this time out, showing Skatey the fight is not gone yet from the Carlin, as he has closed down the gap by about 0.3 of a second on that last lap. We'll see him chasing down Skatey as best he can. Meanwhile, into turn 1, Cameron B really close behind ERZ KBL, but not close enough to contemplate making the move. And Thompson, you can just see how far ahead he is by the time he gets into the braking zone. It seems like through all the corners, ERZ KBL and Cameron B are so much quicker, but the exits of the corners and onto the straights, Thompson's just able to get so much more better traction down and so much better straight line speed that he's able to just blast away from them down the straight, and that means they can't even think about making the move into the first corner, which is usually the best place to overtake around this circuit. They're going to have to try and be creative, find a different way to surprise Thompson, catch him off guard, and try and take that position away from him against his will. Mariussen still 1.2 seconds behind Skatey, trying to close him down at the moment. Going to stick on board with the Carlin driver for the moment, just so we can see visually the gap between him and the race lead as he tries his hardest to close him down. Richie B switching positions with his ART teammate down there in 11th and 12th position. As it looks like BioLite's had a bit of an incident. Richie B had another incident, I think, in this race, because he's 14 seconds away from Mo in 10th position. So not a good second race of the weekend for Richie B. Severe 98M, we saw him having an incident earlier, and now it's a 3-second time penalty for him as well. But Mariussen has just been losing time in the final sector of this lap. And Skatey just ones up Mariussen once again. He takes the fastest lap away. And with only 2 laps remaining, it's looking like it's almost all she wrote for the battle for first position. But it's not all she wrote for the battle for 5th position here, as Cameron B is all over the back of the RZKBL. Thompson's able to gap these guys a little bit here. Cameron up the inside into turn 1. Surely, look how far ahead he is in the braking zone. ERZKBL brakes a lot later, but Cameron B brakes just late enough to make sure that he can hold on to 5th position in the Campos. And the Spanish fans go wild for the Campos driver as he moves himself up into 5th position. Richie B showing what could have been there with a 1:32.6, the fastest lap of the race by about 1/10 of a second on his hard tyres. But the fact that he's in 11th position means that that does not matter. He will not be able to claim the points for the fastest lap of this race because he is not in a point scoring position in general. Mariussen's within a second of Skatey all of a sudden. What happened to Skatey? He must have had a small moment on that lap. And now there's DRS that Mariussen has. And now he can surely hope to start reeling Skatey in. I said it was all she wrote, but I might have been wrong here. This might have been a bit of a commentator's curse on the gap between Skatey and Mariussen as it starts to be closed down here by the Swedish driver in the Carlin. Final sector, it's always tough to follow another car through here. Really tough over the bumpy curbs of the final couple of corners here. Will Mariussen be able to get a solid run on Skatey up towards turn 1? I doubt it's going to be on this lap as he loses about 0.2 of a second in that final sector to Skatey up ahead. But it is the first lap of the race by a long way, actually, for Mariussen. I said Skatey must have had an issue, but maybe it was just Mariussen with an excellent lap there in the Carlin. And look how much closer he is to Skatey now, within half a second briefly of the race leader. It's not over yet at all here in Catalunya, and it is Mariussen that's looking to take the charge to Skatey. He's not content with 2 second positions that he will currently have if he finishes as he does, and Skatey deep into turn 4. That's going to cost him a little bit of time as he locked up there. Mariussen, oh wow, almost lost it completely as he dipped one of his wheels on the grass there on the exit of turn 4, but he was able to hold on to his car just about and not lose too much time at that. Mo, meanwhile, 3-second time penalty, but he's currently in 10th position, not scoring any points as it stands regardless of that time penalty. AOR Thompson still keeping Cameron B and ERZKBL behind him, but we're going to stay on board with Mariussen as we watch him reel in the race leader, the Trident driver, Skatey up ahead. Mariussen, oh, he's got much better time there through turn 10. He's closed another 1/10 of a second at least on Skatey. And you can see Skatey's really struggling now on those hard tyres. Maybe he's just had the best of them there and a big wiggle for him on the exit of what I believe is turn 15 there. 14, or turn 13 I should say. 14 and 15 now. Turn 16 you can see sideways again for Skatey as he's really fighting that car. But it's Mariussen that takes his turn to have to go into a dab of opposite lock there. Skatey already going defensive. You can tell from his body language that he knows that a fight is coming from the Swedish driver. And look at him reeling him in. He's got so much more pace down the straight here. Alongside him into turn 1, just about. He brakes later than the Dutchman. But the Dutchman giving him all the space he needs. And no, Mariussen into the side of him. They both hold on to it somehow. Major contact between them, but neither of them lose their cars. Mariussen steers out of it a little bit and does concede first position once again to Skatey. Skatey's been able to hold on to it for now, but they're going to keep battling now into turn 2 as well. Through turn 4, and look at the switchback! Look at the move from Marion there. So much more traction. You could see it was right on the edge of adhesion on the traction there, and they're still side by side into turn 5. Mariussen with the outside line here for turn 8. Surely that's not going to be the way to do it. Turn 7, I should say, into turn 8, and no, in the traction zone of turn 8. That's always such a tricky moment, and Mariussen tried so hard to keep himself alongside Skatey for yet more of the lap, but Skatey defends his position, and this is the final lap of the race. Has Skatey done enough? He goes defensive just to be extra sure. He's defending fresh air, as Martin Brundle would say, but that is all he needs to do if he wants to win this race. He just needs to keep defending, keep taking the inside line for every corner, making sure that Mariussen can't dive bomb anywhere, and it is going to be so close between these two drivers as they head towards the end of the race. Now Skatey just parking his car on the apex. Mariussen has the pace on him, but he's running out of time, and it looks like he's run out of time. In the Carlin, he gets a better run than Skatey. Will he have enough to be side by side? The DRS opens now. No, is he going to do it? Unbelievable. No, yes he does. It's Mariusson that takes it. It looked like it was Skatey on my screen, but Skatey loses out. Very last seconds of the race, and it's Mariusson that takes the victory. Heiko gets his third position, his second podium of the weekend, and Thompson was able to hold on for fourth position. Cameron B had a penalty. He's lost some positions to ERZ, KBL, and DJ Ole. Dominic down in 8th position rounds out the point scorers. And I'm sorry about all the battles going on elsewhere on the track for 4th, 5th, and 6th particularly, but I had to keep watching between Mariusson and Skatey, and Mariusson took the win by such a small margin. 37 thousandths of a second it was that the Carlin driver won by there. And that was so close on the line. Unbelievable stuff. Oh, wow. And especially, even considering they were side by side throughout the whole last lap, or almost the whole last lap as well. And Skatey will be ruining the fact that he defended fresh air into turn 10 because he lost a lot of time doing that. And that's what made it so that Mariusson was able to get so close behind him at the end and steal away the win. What a drive from Mariusson as well. He started further down the grid than Skatey. Skatey started third on the grid, led for almost the entire race after taking the lead in the first lap. And Mariusson started from 7th, had a good start, gained a few positions, but he just constantly gained positions throughout the rest of the race, getting past driver after driver, and he made it work in the end. First position for Mariusson. Great stuff from him. A second position in the feature race and a first position here in the sprint race means that he will be the highest. I believe he'll be the highest. Actually, no, I think Heiko will still have scored more points this weekend than him because he was on the podium here as well and won the feature race. But nevertheless, great points for Mariusson, and he's really arrived now in the championship. He wasn't able to do so in Baku, and he didn't attend the first race of the season in Bahrain. But now he really makes a statement here that he is not to be trifled with. Jens, are you there?
Yes, I'm still here.
What did you think of that one?
It was a great race, and especially that ending with Mariusson just through the first sector, trying to get past and going side by side, and just through turn 8, losing it a bit, but doing great to not hit Richie B and take them both off the track, and losing them both first and second, and then getting that great exit off those final 2 corners, an important great exit for him, just to go down the inside on the straight with the DRS.
Yeah, the DRS zone, the fact that the detection point is so early on that straight really came in handy for Mariusson at the end of this race. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to give you a results screen here as the screen is remaining black in the lobby. So I'll just show you some pictures instead of Circuit Barcelona-Catalunya. Give it a couple of moments now as we wait to see if any of the drivers are ready for interview. If they jump into the ready for interview section of the Discord, I will bring them in to the commentary box for an interview, but it doesn't look like any of them are doing that at the moment. So we'll just give them a couple of minutes. They're probably chatting it out after that race, and an excellent finish for that race. They're probably having a great time with that one. And I had a great time with it as well. I'm sure you guys did too. Great stuff here in the AOR F2 Sprint League, and that's the sort of action we've been seeing throughout this whole season so far. These races have been excellent here in the F2 Sprint Leagues. The F2 cars really do add an extra dimension to the races, and especially the reverse grid pole, the sprint race and the feature race. The way it all works, the whole weekend just gives you such a different flavour than the F1, and it really gives you some really interesting competition, and we see different drivers having good races at the same track. One has a really good race in the feature race, and then all of a sudden it's a different driver that has such a good race in the sprint race. And we saw that partially with Thompson after he had such a great first race to claim 8th position in reverse grid pole, but then once he had that reverse grid pole he really struggled for pace. However, his defensive driving was on point and he was able to hold on to 4th position. Doesn't look like anyone is going to hop into the Ready for Interview channel, so I don't think we're going to have any interviews for you this weekend either. But thank you guys very, very much for watching what was an excellent sprint race and a pretty good feature race as well here in Spain for the Spanish Grand Prix, for the AOR F2 Sprint League. I have been Jacob Hancox, and alongside me has been Jens, and thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye.